She's a serve-safe proctor from Rhode Island, and she has her assistant here. She's going to do a cooking demonstration for us. She's also a chef. So without further ado, I would like to welcome you all to Sister Mary.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So what we're going to be making today is brown rice with asparagus. It's going to be a fried rice, an alternative to going to the Chinese store. I cook at home all day, and I believe that we need to bring this back into the house. Little tips: we had to soak our brown rice for 2 hours in order for us to get to the is. It's a day old. How do you do it? It's better with day old rice when you're frying it. And we also cut up the asparagus and everything unified size just to make sure that it's cooked evenly. Once again, I am from Rhode Island. I am a serve instructor and proctor, so I do give you the class and also test you. So if you are interested, we have a sign-up sheet right here, so you can. We also cater. Justice of the peace. We also do consulting. Do everything. We have to keep it with us. So coming out. Okay. So right now we're gonna add our onions, peppers. You soak it for about 45 minutes to an hour. Then you cook it, because what the soaking does, it helps breaks down the fibers. So because brown rice is natural rice, so it's pure before processed. What you want to do when you soak it, it releases the starch that's in there. That's what it does, but it also breaks it down. So when you cook it, you'll still follow the regular thing of 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of water when you cook it.
Brown rice in its natural form. That was like an out of
Right. So you soak that for like an hour, then you cook it. Yeah. And then after
if you're gonna do a stir fry, it'd be good to cook it the day before, so that the next day you can stir fry.
Got it.
Cook it the next day.
Yeah.
And this is the asparagus. We cut it down. This is the stems, the stalk, and this I like to separate it. Because this one, because it's the stem, is more fibrous, so it cooks a little bit longer. As to the tips, you want to keep it as fresh as possible. This is where most of the nutrition value is in the tips. So what you want to do is you want to let this cook down for about 10-15 minutes till the stems start getting tender. Add your seasonings. I'm not a salt person, but I find seasoning different things. So you have cumin, you have nutmeg, you have oregano, if there's a little salt, and those earthy seasonings bring out the brown rice, because it takes a nutty flavor of the brown rice, so it enhances it in a different way. So after 5 or 10 minutes that you cook this down, you want to add your day-old brown rice. At this time, we're going to add a olive oil, about 2 tablespoons, and then we're going to add our tips.
What's the name of that dish?
This is asparagus stir-fried rice. Asparagus tips.
Put 2 tablespoons of olive oil.
Yep, after.
Talk about the beautiful colors.
The rice got to be real dark or
Nope. So I don't put in. This is just regular brown rice, day-old brown rice that I cook. So we just put it in there, and then we just stir fry it together, all the vegetables together. And once again, you can add salt at this time. If you're not really salt fanatic, like I said, have other herbs like cumin, nutmeg, oregano, mustard seed. You can add this all in here. So you'll season it to your liking. So this is a quick meal. So say for instance, if all of this is prepped when you come home from work or whatever, I only been here for 10 minutes. You throw this all in the pan, and this is a meal in itself. So it only takes you 10 minutes to cook a dinner. So when we think about cooking, you have to think about prepping. So it's not only just when I'm cooking that day. Start prepping from the week before. If you prep, it's going to be easier for you to cook. So that way, no excuse of I don't have time for you have to run to the store. If everything is prepped, if you have these all in your refrigerator, if you take a Monday or a Friday to prep, and you have this all in the refrigerator, you can make several meals with just one thing you prepped.
The rice is already pre-cooked.
Yep. So what you can do is,
Now, what kind of heat is the fire on?
you want to do it on medium because you don't want to put it on high heat because it's going to burn. You still want to cook it in a way that all the vegetables get cooked, but still leave its essence. What the vegetable truly is, you want to leave the value because you don't want to overcook it or undercook it. So if you look at the wonderful colors, you'll see it. This meal is done. It took us about like 10 minutes. I usually one, because I'm a chef, I usually like throwing on. So we could throw on scallions for presentation, because we all eat with our eyes, right? And then it's done.
Bit more magnesium here. The nitrogen level, you can tell at the upper leaves here if they're very light. Now nitrogen, would you believe, who wants to give me a guess of where you can get the most nitrogen? If you, just a wild guess. It's something that a lot of us do every morning to give us a jolt.
Are you talking about coffee?
Yes, our coffee grinds. Yes, save those coffee grinds, save those tea bags, because you can add that to your soil and that will give it extra nitrogen. Alfalfa meal will do it as well, but the easiest source is coffee grinds. If you have a big farm, well, if you like to visit Starbucks, ask them for their coffee grinds, they'll give it to you. You like to go to Dunkin' Donuts, ask them for their coffee grinds, they'll give them to you. So those things, again, very easy ways of making your soil richer and more fertile. Lastly, my mom used to always say this all the time, that she needed to sweeten the soil. She needed to sweeten the tomatoes, and I didn't quite get what she was talking about. But when I was doing a little research, I found that oftentimes when you eat tomatoes and they're very, very, you can taste that acid, that means there's too much acid in the soil. Blueberries don't like real acidic soil. It makes them unhappy. They don't do as well as they need to. But baking soda will help balance your soil and balance out that acid. So when you hear that term sweetened soil, you can actually do that with using baking soda. The best way to tell how much, if any, that you need is taking a soil test. So the other reason why I'm here today with you is to talk a little bit about soil testing, why that's important, why that's necessary, particularly for us as backyard growers here in Boston, in Springfield, in Hartford, in any of our major cities. There are things that we face. There are things that are in the soil that we didn't have any control over. Number one, if they bring down a house or some kind of building that use lead paint. Remember now, this area was developed first, so they have a lot of old products, asbestos, lead, arsenic, right? You don't know it's in the soil until you start working with it, and you might not ever know, but you're eating the food that you're growing from that. And you want to make sure that it's safe. Lead poisoning is horrific. It gets into the blood. It actually stops the cognitive growth of children. I worked for the Housing Authority of Baltimore City for almost 8 years, and they have had so many cases of children that grew up in the projects that suffered from lead poisoning from the lead paint. So a couple of things to look for those of us who are growing in areas like this. Yes, you can still grow. I don't want to make it all doom and gloom. You can still grow. We just have to take some precautions. So number one, we have free soil testing kits from UMass Amherst. All you have to do is fill it out. There's a little form. The code that you could use is HB1, so you fill this out. Take a few samples from your plot, mix it, place this in this bag, put a nice little label. Everything goes back in this envelope, and you can send it off to UMass, and they'll send you test results back. I can also do it for you if you prefer, if we do it. And what that result will tell you is, number one, if you have elevated levels of lead. And anything that's really over 100, you don't want to grow in that. That could be fatal. You definitely don't want to do that. The other thing is, we are taking, I'm just going to take this right underneath you here. We are in a partnership with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS. It's part of the USDA. And I know as black and brown people, we don't have a good relationship with the USDA. What they've done to black farmers has been atrocious. However, they have a tool that can tell you right off the bat if you may have an issue with lead and arsenic. Arsenic is really prevalent here in Boston. So if you are interested, we did take a few samples. We could send this off to NRCS. They will test it and let us know if we have to get that second test for you. So if you didn't bring it today, if you didn't bring a sample today, don't worry. Bring it sometime during the week. Give it to Sister Doris. She'll get it to me, and we'll get it off to NRCS. Great tool. These are both free. So I urge you to take advantage of both, especially if you are growing or want to expand your growing. We want to make sure that you're growing in safe soil. The other thing you can do, raised beds, container growing, grow bags. So don't worry, there are other ways of correcting this. We just want to make sure right off the bat what you're dealing with. The other thing that the UMass soil test will show too is what your nutrient content is like, particularly in the big three that I just talked about, magnesium, potassium, and calcium. It will give you some trace minerals. And then we can do a second test that's from Logan Labs, which is in Ohio. That's the test that we work with, and we can also do soil recommendations for you. That's what I work with primarily, is with community gardens and backyard gardens. My last, and I don't know if I have time to demonstrate it, but since I work with youth, one of the programs that the Food Access Department works with, we have a garden at City Housing. over 40 units. 40 families live in that building. We have a community garden. We're able to service all 40 families with food from the garden. Last year we were blessed to grow over 1,700 pounds of food. And we grew that food using these very simple techniques. And the things that now we're introducing to the youth is how they can become soil scientists, just like you. And we use this device called a micrometer that will test how much carbon is being held in the soil. So just think about it. If you're a gardener, anyone gardens right now, I don't care if it's a pot. If it's a pot, you're still a gardener. All right, so as gardeners, don't you know that we are the greatest conservationists in our city? Because the more things that we grow, the more carbon dioxide is released, the more oxygen is exchanged, and we can correct some of the heat islands. So we're conservationists. So if you're a gardener, you're a conservationist. Don't forget that. And this device will show how much carbon is being held in the soil. And it's really simple, very quick. If you want to see me demonstrate it after my talk, I can do that for you very quickly. This is so fun if you have children, if you have teenagers. Very simple product to use. Also, I'm going to do this really quick. How many people know what's in their soil here in Massachusetts? Do you have any idea? Sister's shaking her head. I have a slight idea in Springfield. Brother Chris is like, I don't have any idea. So we're going to do a little quick test to see what's the makeup of our soil. So there are 5 parts of soil, real quick. You have what's called the humus layer. That's all the stuff that breaks down plants and different small animals and worms. Then you have the layer right under the humus, which is the topsoil. Normally they're together. Your third layer they call it level C. That's where you'll have some rocks and minerals. Most of your plants are going to go through the first level, the second level, and a part of the third. All your trees like that, all your fruit trees, all your berry bushes are going to go past that third level, and they might touch the 4th level. The very last level is bedrock. It's just pure rock, like the Flintstones. Who used to watch the Flintstones? Yeah, okay. See, there's a Flintstones fan right there. There you go. See, thank you, Sister Lisa. You're bearing witness right there. So that bedrock, it's really hard. We don't even see it. We rarely see it, and that's where that actually will send up pieces of rock and other minerals to the other layers. So this test will actually separate out the different layers, so we can see if we have loam or silt or clay. Excuse me. If we have sand, because there are parts of the state that has sandy loam. There are other parts that's strictly loam, some that's just clay. It's a fun activity just to see what you're working with. So I'm going to pour into my jar here. I'm going to fill it up. I'm just going to use my hand. You want to fill up a mason jar and maybe about 1/3 or 2/3. Okay. We did this with the youth and they had a good time with it. We're going to put in water, fill it up to that bottom of the jar here. Okay. And then we're going to add a little bit of dishwashing detergent. The dishwashing detergent will act as an agent to start the separation process. Okay. I didn't give you exact measurements. I'm guessing at it. I don't have a top to shake it up, so I'm just going to stir it up real good. We'll let this set, and the goal is that over at least a few minutes we'll start to see it separate. Within 24 hours we should see the different layers of soil. Okay. And we're just going to let it set but you may start to see some separation already. Can you see some separation? You can see? Okay. So over time, we'll see different layers here. The sand may float to the top. The loam is heavier, it's denser. It'll go to the bottom, as you're starting to see. We'll have a middle layer here that'll float around. This will allow us to categorize what is in our soil. What is our soil made up of? And this is a little chart that will tell us how much clay, how much silt and sand. There is a calculation that you can do that will allow you to determine how much you have of each. But for now, I just want you to get a visual of what it could look like. So we're going to let this sit for the duration of time that I'm here. You're welcome to come up, take a look, tell me, hey, we got another layer of the soil that's floating to the top. It's a wonderful thing to do. After 24 hours, you'll see everything separate. So prayerfully, you got something from my little talk. Inshallah, I'll come back if you want me to come back to talk a little bit more about what soil health does for the plants. If you do want to take a soil test kit, please do, and I'll show you how to use it. And feel free to give me a call. I'll give you my contact information. It really has been my pleasure today and really an honor to be here with you all. I'll be here for a little while longer if you have any questions, if you want to see another demonstration. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I really appreciate it.